So good morning and welcome. Happy Sunday. It's always wonderful to see each and every one of you here. Am I turned on? Yeah, I guess I am turned on. I am just really grateful, as I am grateful all of the time, and especially on Sundays, that we have the opportunity to come together in this community, to be here with each other, to connect, to share, to learn, to grow, and to love. Wow, how does it get any better than that? And here's the icing on the cake, if you will. It's almost springtime. I don't know about you guys, but this week was a mother, okay? And it wasn't a nice mommy either, okay? I was like getting up at 5:30 and looking at it at 7:30. They would delay my whole, work experience until 10:30, and I would go, really, now that I've had a bucket of coffee, thanks very much, okay? But I just get it that all of you are with me when we turn toward spring, when we turn toward the green and the flowers coming up and blooming and the birds singing. They've been waking me up earlier and earlier every morning, and everything just getting warmer and prettier. It's supposed to be gorgeous out there today, so even if it's only for 5 minutes, get yourselves out there and enjoy it. I really believe that this time of year represents something very deep and important on a soul level for us, on a child level. And that is the advent of new beginnings, new things emerging, new birth, new growth, and new life. So, and tomorrow it's this month it's leap year, this year is leap year. Leap year is an interesting concoction. We have some of those in our world, don't we, with Eastern Standard Time and Daylight Savings Time and leap year. It was about 50 years before the birth of that one that Paul mentioned, Yeshua, who, when Julius Caesar made the decision to add a day to the calendar to catch up for the not quite perfect rotation of the earth around the sun, okay, and how it took 365 days and change. And so every fourth year we add a day to the calendar to pick up that change and contain those hours. I'm not sure how they figured all that out, and I really don't want to know. But it was a long, long time ago that happened. I also learned in looking at that in ancient Ireland, February 29th was the one time when it was acceptable for there to be a role reversal between women and men. And in that situation, it was acceptable for the woman to ask for her boyfriend's hand in marriage. She could propose instead of waiting on him or maybe never hearing it, whatever. So, we can go all the way back that long ago too. So, given that it's all things new time of year and that spring is on the horizon, we're going to jump into something fun here, something new that will carry us through the entire month of March in terms of ideas and concepts and things to fill our awareness with and hopefully do some house cleaning. And it is that time of year. I don't know about you, but I know my mother hailed from Holland. She had Dutch blood, and she always used to say she blamed it on the Dutch, that in March she would throw open the windows and throw open the doors and throw everything that wasn't nailed down outside and clean the entire house and then bring it all back in piece by piece, cleaning it. And trust me, you didn't want to be in the way of that. She really got into that big house cleaning. So it's a time to do that. It's a time for cleansing. Of course, it's also traditional, and many of you I know are from this part of the country. You're from the mountains and have that country heritage, that those mountainous teachings, okay, that grew up or came from our ancestors. It's also common for folks to go out and pick the first crop of dandelions and make that into tea or even brew it into wine and drink that. And that's as a physical cleansing particularly works on the liver quite well from what I understand, although I haven't ever done it. So it's that time. What we're going to embark on here, what I invite you to join with me in, is a 30-day mental cleansing. And we're going to talk about how we would do that and look at not only our thought, which we'll talk about today, but as we proceed into the weeks that come, cleansing emotional stuff, cleansing beliefs, just moving all through the different arenas of our lives and kind of cleaning things out, being ready for this new year, and as we move into the really meaty part of the year, if you will. Hopefully I'm not stepping on any vegetarian toes there, but the really strong part of the year will have some real strong tools to use, and also be really clear as we move into that. Okay, so it won't surprise any of you, I mentioned a moment ago, we're going to start by looking at how we work on our thought process, and looking at some tools that we can use to really clean that act up. And I know many of you probably don't need this, and I do, so humor me, okay? Of course, in the Science of Mind teaching, we are all about thought. We understand that what we think and how we think is really tantamount to determining the quality of life that we have. I'm always reminded when I think about that of a story that Wayne Dyer used to tell about this little lady, 80-something years old, and just blind as could be, but every morning by 8 a.m. perfectly dressed, ready to go out in the day, dressed attractively, hair combed, makeup applied. How do you put on makeup when you can't see what you're doing? I have no idea. But ready for the day, ready to greet the day, that she was, just open to whatever the world would bring her, and ready to go out and meet the highest that the universe had to offer her. I just love that idea, that concept. I hope when I'm 80 or 80-something or 90 or 204 or whatever, okay, because I plan on being here for a while, in case you haven't noticed, we'll be experiencing those things. So, but we understand two things in this teaching, two truths. One is that we can think consciously, or we can go by default. And that often default is a much less conscious road for us. The second truth, and I borrow this from Joel Osteen, who speaks a lot of interesting stuff, and I really like a lot of it. He tells us that whatever it is that controls our thought controls us. End of statement. And that is so true. Think about it. Even if we are focused on something good, in that moment we're kind of stuck. We're like a record player, where the needle isn't advancing right onto I guess it's got like tracks or grooves in the record that it moves through, and it's stuck there, okay? It's fine when we're feeling good, but it might not work too good if we're not feeling so great. What is thought? Well, coming from Ernest Holmes, we have a very interesting definition of that. Ernest tells us that thought is the conscious activity of the one thinking. That's like a dictionary definition. I don't get much out of that, okay? So what is thought? Well, thought really is that process where we have an idea, something enters our mind, and we make, in that thought process, some kind of determination about it. We could even call that determination a judgment of sorts, okay? So something passes by, we see a vehicle drive down the road, and more than likely, on some level, we register that, that was a gold, you guys would know, right? Mike would know. We passed Harold's yesterday, and there was a Lotus sitting in the parking lot, and before we're past the grocery store, he's like, that's a 19 blah, 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 Lotus, and, yada, yada, yada. I bet it cost blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, really? Interesting. He's like a book when it comes to vehicles, So we have a thought. That thought, obviously, for him, that idea was laden with not only some factual data, but I bet you if I had pushed it and engaged in a deeper conversation, he would have said, yeah, that's a really nice drive, but, they don't do this well, or they don't do that well, or it's not a good vehicle for in the snow, or, he would have had some opinions too. So think about it. Whenever you have a thought, it's just laden with stuff. It might have factual data, okay? It might really, it's like, that person, there's a man coming in the door. Well, we just made a judgment call, didn't we? That human being looks like a man. Obviously, first off, it's a human, okay? And then it's a male human, and it's a male human of about, mid-40s or whatever, okay? We go on and take it from there. So it's laden, those thoughts are laden, every one of them, with a lot of interesting information. So, in this teaching, we believe that when we have a thought, that thought is activated or acted upon by a universal law. And if you want to be spiritual about it, you can say that's a spiritual law. We believe that in Science of Mind. The cool thing about this teaching is that we don't have to adhere to that. We can see it as a totally secular process if we understand that the universe operates on certain laws. What we understand then is that there's a mental law, and that thought we had is going to be acted upon by that universal law. So it can even be secular. What happens then is it's as if that law conspires to bring about the very conditions that were embodied within that thought. So, for instance, let's just paint a picture here. We might be at work and I've been in school systems a lot lately, and you know what they look like. There's halls and then there's rooms, right? Okay, so we might be in the hallway and see our boss and be 100 feet away from the boss, not within talking distance, and think, oh, there's the boss. I better go back in my office because she's going to ask me if I did this such and such project for her, and I haven't gotten there yet. So we've immediately painted a whole picture around this one visual thing that we came in touch with. What's going to happen if the boss catches us? She's probably going to ask us, or he, whichever it is, about that project that we just haven't quite completed yet, just because we put that out there. And it's literally floating around kind of in this thought, universe. And, she got it too. She picked up on it too, okay? We get it in this teaching that thought is the starting point of everything. It has to have happened for things to come about. Now I'm going to do some reading from Ernest, okay? So hang in there with me. In the Science of Mind text, Ernest tells us to learn how to think is to learn how to live, for the potential wrought by the law in response to our thought is infinite. By thinking, we understand that we can bring into our experience whatsoever we desire if we think correctly and become a living embodiment of our thoughts. This is not done by holding thought, but by believing what it is that we are thinking and then living in accordance with that belief, with those thoughts. We understand that all of thought, as I said before, is creative. When we think, something happens with that thought. It's as if that thought creates a mold in a subjective field where the idea of whatever it is that we are thinking about is accepted. It is as if that idea is poured into that very mold, and activities begin to align to support that idea. I think about making things with molds. Earlier last fall, when Frank and Judy and some of us were coming together for a workshop that focused on creating just memorabilia. I can't think of the word.
Talismans.
Talisman class, thank you. Yes, creating talismans and things like that. Frank, of course, who has a tremendous experience and background as a jeweler, brought lots of molds. Judy brought in molds that you can take things and heat them up and create other things. And I think about how that creative process is always going on for every single one of us, all of the time, okay? Yet it's invisible, so we don't quite get it. We don't quite get that our thought is simply the medium, okay? It's the product. It's literally, Ernest has a quote here, somewhere in here. It's as if thought lays hold of causation and forms real substance. It's literally almost alchemical in nature, okay? Ernest goes on to tell us that ignorance of this excuses no one from its effects, for we are dealing with law and not whimsical theory. We should learn to control our thought processes Thought should tend more and more toward an affirmative attitude of mind that is positive and stable. Merely to abstain from wrong thinking is not enough. There must be active right thinking. We must become actively constructive and happy in our thinking, not merely passively so. New and wholesome ideas of life, vitality, and hope must be accepted and incorporated into the substratum of our mental life so that a more wholesome externalization may manifest in our bodily condition, yes, this very body, and our environment. Thinking about how our thought affects the body, we're going to get into some of that next week, so be sure to be with us then. But I'm reminded of an article I saw probably 12 years ago in Science of Mind magazine, and it was a study done on thought. It was a true study, okay, true research type study that was done on the effects of thought and the effects of exercise. And they took two groups of people. One of them had to do the exercise. I was not in that group, okay? The other one sat on the couch. I was in that group. And thought their way through those exercises. And do you know the muscle, then they, like at the end of a certain period of time, they tested the muscle development, okay? You know, and of course they had, looked at it before and looked at it part of the way through and all that. The people who sat on the couch developed 30% as much muscle as those who actually went out there and busted their you-know-whats. I'm all in for that, okay? Let's use the mind, guys, okay? It's a fun tool to have. So, we see in this teaching, we understand that thoughts are things. And if you've heard that phrase, it didn't come from the movie The Secret. It came from Ernest Holmes. He said thoughts are things. If we treat them like true form, okay, it helps somehow in the mind to understand, okay? Thought has the power to objectify itself. Again, that quote, thought lays hold of causation and forms real substance. So it takes the principles of manifestation, of causation, and it makes that stuff show up in form. I don't know how. How do we get all the, whatever it is that was non-form to agree to come together and be the chairs you're sitting on? I don't know. I don't care anymore. I just know it works, okay? If you question that, then think about this. Thoughts of sickness can make you sick. I refuse to listen to my coworkers at my day job. One of them goes into homes and the baby has pneumonia and norovirus and all. I'm like, shut it. Not in my face, not in my force field. No. Out, not having it. Okay? Do you understand? I refuse to be sick with crud. Okay? Keep it away. Unless I choose to get sick so I can stay home and rest. That's a choice then. Okay? It's not just going to happen. Okay? Thoughts of health and perfection can heal us. And again, if you don't believe that, my encouragement is lay your hands on a copy of You Are the Placebo by Joel Dispenza. One of these days we'll have them in the bookstore when I get around to ordering them. Okay? But that man did the impossible. There were pieces of his spinal column, bone, gristle, okay, laying on the pavement. And he put his body back together using his mind. If one can, anyone can. Ernest goes on to tell us, trained thought is more powerful than untrained thought. Have you ever tried to calm your racing mind? That's an example of untrained thought. We all go there. I mean, even once in a while, not like it used to be. A friend of mine used to tell me that I had the mental disorder of what-if-itis. That's a form of untrained thought, too. Okay? One of the reasons that we encourage people who are experiencing any kind of a question mark in their life to see a practitioner, to go get with a practitioner, is that we understand during that 1-minute miracle, such as we offer after the service, is that we are getting with someone who has spent years of their lives strengthening their mind, training up their thought. Okay? And it's always so much easier to do it for someone besides ourselves. Okay? Most of the time. Sometimes it can be challenging. Okay? but we understand that that person is adept at knowing a truth for us that perhaps in that moment we simply can't see. Have you ever had a mentor or a family member or a parent, a beloved, who held the light for you when you simply could not see your way through something? Same thing. They have, in that moment, more training at seeing you in that light than you do, more capacity for that. What happens when we decide to change our thoughts? People come into a teaching like this, they begin to change their thoughts, and they come to me and they go, oh God, my life is blowing up. I'm like, yeah, it's great. I know, it's wonderful. And it actually sometimes happens that way. But it's very simple. Really, we erase thought from consciousness, this is Ernest again, by pouring in an opposite thought. This thought meets the other and neutralizes its effect. Even a small amount of right thought has the potential to neutralize that which seems wrong. Right thought constantly poured into consciousness will eventually purify it. Discord or disharmony in thought might be likened to a vessel of impure water. Healing might be likened to the process of dropping pure water into the bottle or the vessel, one drop at a time, until the whole is clean and pure. A drop at a time will eventually eliminate the impurities and produce a healing. Think about what happens when it rains, okay, and that clear, healthy rainwater comes down and blesses the planet. And sure, it storms of dirt sometimes, okay, but it dilutes what's there, okay. So I have a little example, a little exercise in considering how this actually works. Can I get somebody up here to help as a volunteer? Just anybody. Stick your hand up or come on up here. Oh, good. I've got lots of volunteers. I can use both of you. Come right ahead. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So that's great. Okay, I need to step over here for just a minute. We have a table. This is my next act, okay? So we have a table here. Come on over, Tony, and stand next to Gil there, okay? So I have in this beaker here, this is a clean vase, okay, a clean beaker, and it's nice, it's lovely water. It came out of the water machine back there. It's clear, clean water, okay? And in this exercise, this is going to represent pure, positive consciousness. I'm going to ask Gil to take the beaker, to take the vase, and if you would not mind, would you take a sip of it? Trust me, it's clear water. It's clean water. All right. Great. It tastes like water, right? Yeah. Clean water. Thank you. Okay. So Gil just drank some of this. We're going to set it right here. Okay. Hopefully you can continue to see it. Now we have another container here. Oh yes, this is lovely. You might not be able to read this. Okay. It says toilet water. It's that nice blue stuff that comes out of the toilet when you use those special, it's not really, it's food coloring. It's blue food coloring and water that came out of that machine. Okay? Would either of you care for some toilet water? Probably not, right? No. Okay. So I'm going to hand this to Tony. I'm not going to ask you to drink that, okay? We don't want your teeth to turn blue. Trust me, it is only water with food coloring. But I'm going to ask you to just pour all of that into this lovely pure consciousness. This is our toilet water tainted negative thought process. Oh my gosh, look at that. What a color and a half. What happened to our beautiful, clean, crystal clear consciousness? It's all dirty, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, it's gross. Okay. So now we have one more thing. And this here is simply going to represent positive thought. Okay? Pure, healthy, positive consciousness, positive thought. And I'm going to ask Tony, since he got to handle the toilet water, to just pour that, as much of it, it probably won't all fit, okay? But let's watch what happens. What happens to that deep, deep shade of blue? That's great, Tony, thank you. It got a little lighter, didn't it? We put a clean, clear, positive thought into the murk. It might have had some trouble making a difference. But if we keep doing that, it will change things. Thank you, Bud. You can sit down. I'm going to removes the toilet water over here so I don't sling it around and create a situation for some steam cleaning of the carpet. There we go. But that's just a little visual at how when we think, it really does have an effect on what's going in. Now, you might take a look at that dark blue, toilet-watered, muddied-up consciousness and think, when I have a positive thought, it doesn't do anything. I remember those days, okay? I remember struggling to have a positive thought and having it and feeling like it didn't make any difference, okay? Because at the time that beaker was pretty, what was going on here was pretty full up with negativity. It is not easy to change what's going on with us all the time. It is, however, incredibly effective when we keep it up. And somewhere in his writings, and I have a heck of a time finding this, and apparently just as much trouble hanging on to it because I save it on my hard drive and then I never can find it, Ernest made a statement that's very, very telling. He said, we don't have to be at 100%. We only have to be at 51%. And mountains move, and illnesses drop away, and shift happens for us when we begin to grab hold of positivity and refuse to let go. Why the heck are we so focused on our thought? Okay. Well, a couple of weeks ago, we saw a slide on the PowerPoint that we're going to take a look at again. Kathy, can we move forward? And that is just this. This is my, my favorite picture. It's a picture of an iceberg. All of you guys have seen this before. I love this because I think it's just hugely representative of human consciousness. It's just a wonderful graphic. What we have is above the water, in consciousness, the thoughts that we know, that we are aware of having. Okay? You can see that what's under the water is bigger, and it's harder to see. Okay? And it's just our unconscious thoughts. Now, you may think, well, I'm not really sure if I have any unconscious thoughts or not, because they're unconscious. Who would know? It's a question mark, right? But there are times then when things happen and we have an experience. For instance, perhaps we have some kind of physical malady or illness, or we have a flat tire, or even I came incredibly close yesterday driving. They changed the traffic over in Franklin, and man, I almost drove right into the path of 3 cars. I mean, it would have been good, and it would have been on my side of the vehicle too, not Mike's. So, no, we're always teasing. It's okay. It's your side. It was no big deal. But suppose we have something like that happen, okay? Or perhaps we run out of money before we run out of months. I know that's never happened to anybody but me here, right? It's very easy to look at those circumstances and say, I didn't create this mess. Who did this? I didn't have anything to do with this. And we didn't, consciously, okay? But there's a big piece of our, if you will, that part of us that is always manifesting from, that we are not always aware of. On some level, we sure did. Yeah, we did. Even though it's not fun to look at, and even less fun sometimes to dig into. The more that we attend to conscious thoughts and upgrade them, the more they will work for us in bringing about conditions in which we are well supported. It's kind of as if we keep putting positive stuff in, it sinks down into that unconscious, and it clarifies. Just as when Tony took that second glass of water and poured that in, we didn't see much change to begin with. But if the vessel had been bigger and he had added another cup and another cup and another cup, eventually we would have seen a tremendous lightening of that darker thought, if you will. Okay? That's a very simplistic kind of awareness about it, but get it, every single thought we have is filled with power. Ernest Holmes goes on to tell us, such is the power of right thinking, that it cancels and erases everything unlike itself. It answers every question, solves all problems, is the solution to every difficulty. It is like the sunlight that we see outside today. It is like the sunlight of eternal truth bursting through the clouds of obscurity and bathing all of life in glory. I don't know about you guys, but I like that idea, okay? I like days when I can walk out and feel that warmth, okay? And it doesn't just have to come from out here. We can have it regardless of what the skies are doing, okay? And it's really fun. You know, I'll be at work and people will be running in and out and they'll be complaining and griping about the snow and the ice and the weather and the rain and blah, 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 blah. And I had to park half a mile away and I'm like, I'm just happy, you know? I'm just where I want to be, and I'm dinged if I'm going to let something falling from the sky make my mind up for me, okay? We have that choice. So what are we going to do for this 30-day mental challenge, for this month-long thing that we're embarking on? Okay. Well, here's the way that this works. The suggestion is that each morning we will get up and we will speak aloud an affirmation. This affirmation is going to be provided. We have a little handout that I'll share in just a moment, okay? And we'll have that with us. We'll be able to carry that with us as we move through this time. Then as we move through the day, we just have only to be aware of what we're thinking. The cool thing about this is most of the time, with our negative thoughts, they carry a sense of heaviness with them, or perhaps even emotional, disillusionment, unhappiness, whatever, density, if you will, okay? So all we have to do is be aware of those thoughts that we have that don't feel good. If we have a thought like that, when we have a thought like that, what we're going to do is we're going to look at it. And we're going to say, okay, what direction is this thought aiming in? Okay? Because our thoughts are always about one of three directions. The past, what's going on right now, the present, or the future. Okay? If we have a thought about the past, say, for instance, that we've had a time when we were very ill, and we look back at that and think about that as a negative, painful experience. And of course, it so very rightly had to have been. Okay? I think most of us in here have had times when physically we were not well and thought, oh, this could be serious, or maybe it even is serious. I'm really scared. I'm being impacted by this. I hurt. I can't function the way I like to. But the reality of it is, there's always something there that we can look at and see as having been positive or supportive or something like that. An example that I like to look at in my own personal life is my whole experience of being married, okay? Which almost makes me laugh when I think about it because it was so funny. Now it's funny. Then it was tragic and traumatic and scary, and we won't go into the gory, okay? I love my ex-husband today. I love him. If I got a call and found he was on his deathbed, he is one of the few people on this planet, besides people in this congregation, where I would be there in a heartbeat. As fast as I could physically get there, I would drop whatever I was doing, okay? Because he and I have something that I haven't had with anybody else. We parented a child, and we did a much nicer job of that as separated, divorced parents than we did married, let me assure you, okay? The kid, if she were here, could tell tales. She survived it, and actually I think is thriving, okay? And I learned so much. Oh my God, I learned so much, even from the negative. It was such a blessing. Would I go back and do it again, eyes wide open? Not willingly, okay? But, it was an amazing experience, okay? I'm sure that each of us has had something in our past that we can look at and we can say, hey, all in all, I got something positive from that. It might not have been worth it, but there were aspects of it that really served me well. And if we can't, that's okay. What I like to do in that situation, what it means to me in that situation is I'm not finished with something. And so I just like to look at it and say, okay, universe, show me what I got out of that was for my good, that was for me. that was positive. And in a day or two, I'll see something. Okay, might not be huge, might not be, like something coming up out of the ocean huge. Okay, but it could be pretty significant. So we're going to look at our thoughts and look at the direction. If it's past, we will look for something, again, that served us, that supported us, that we grew from. If it's something present, oh my, like you're stuck in the dental chair and you're going to be there for 4 hours. Well, even and I'm so neurotic, okay, when it kind of want to affirm that, but really and truly I have some very deep issues about going to the dental office, okay? Like, it has to be painful before I will even make the appointment. And by then I'm crying and whining and begging for drugs. Okay, just give me some drugs. That's what I want. Give me drugs. Just cut my head off instead. I don't want to live because I don't want to have to go to the dentist. Can you take my head and fix it and bring it back? No, they haven't figured out how to do that yet. Okay? Even in the dentist chair, think about it. If you open your eyes, you're bound to see something pretty. I went to this dentist one time over in Clyde, and this guy, he knows about people like me. He's built a whole window. I don't think it was even like a normal shaped window. I think it was like an oval window. And outside that window was a waterfall, okay? And you can see birds and rabbits and all these, gorgeous stuff, okay? Almost made it worth paying the bill and going to the dentist. Not quite, okay? But we can grab a hold of something that we know in that experience will elevate us, will lift us so that we can see something positive in that, okay? I was paying bills the other day. What's positive about that? I have to tell you today, I love paying bills, okay? I love watching it melt, okay? I love watching it leave. I love it and bless it and say thank you so much for this opportunity. And I know this one is paid in full, okay? People don't want to be around me when I pay bills. I keep thinking, couldn't I get a job doing this? It would be so much fun, okay? There's something weird about that, isn't it? If our thought is about the future, okay? Very often we look at the future with an eye of question, okay? With concern or perhaps even fear or doubt or worry. But that's a choice, okay? We can know, well, I got to meet with the boss Friday, and this is never easy, okay? Might not be fun at all. Could be bad news, don't know, A lot of times in any event, it's more work. But we can also get it that both of us are in that room for the same purpose, okay? And that is to come away with a better product, if you will, with a better situation, okay? For this particular thing that we're both looking at, okay? There's got to be something in it that's positive. So, that's the way we do this. I have a little handout, okay? I'm going to pass these out. You can take at least one. We got plenty of them, and we'll have them every Sunday, okay? And what we have here, again, is just the essential message of what I have just shared. As you get these, what you see at the top of the card, remember to include Kathy back there, please. What you see at the top is the affirmation. And that's very simple. Essentially, we say, I dedicate myself on this date to attend carefully to my thoughts as they arise and to actively choose to focus on all that is nourishing, advancing, and promising. And of course, we're going to start this on Tuesday, which is the 1st of March. Here's the really cool thing. This is leap year. Again, I mentioned that already. Tomorrow is practice day, okay? So you can carry this with you. You can carry it with you the whole time, okay? But basically, it'll just give us a way of a practice run. I love this, okay? Now, I didn't think all this up. Some of it is, I've doctored, okay? But this comes from the November 2015 Science of Mind magazine, and an article in that magazine, if you get the mag, you can probably go back and find this, written by author and publisher Mitch Horowitz, okay? And Lewis is shaking his head. He's read the whole magazine 17 times, haven't you? I love you, Lewis. Okay, but Lewis gets the Science of Mind magazine on Monday, and on Tuesday it weighs another Pam because he's gone through 3 yellow highlighters. I love you. It's just amazing what he does with the Science of Mind magazine. It's beautiful, okay? As we go through this, if you have the magazine, you can look back and find Mitch's article, okay? If you want more cards, we got them, and I'll bring more next Sunday, okay? And so what we're going to do is work on this. Again, say the affirmation aloud in the morning. It isn't going to take you long to memorize this. If you need to tweak it, like probably after the first, you're not going to say it for 30 days, okay? You're going to say for today, okay? I dedicate myself, and etc., you know? And then if you have a thought that seems like it is attached to something painful, whether it's past, whether it has to do within that moment, or whether it's looking forward into the future, you literally can take your little card and think about, how can I reframe this? How can I change this? Okay? If I'm looking at a situation, for instance, I've had an argument with somebody, and that argument is still very fresh in my mind, and it still stings. The whole atmosphere around that situation stings. Okay? I can look at that. That's part of my past, and I can go, well, what is it? You know, what is it that I can look at that and take away and see as being positive? Okay? Maybe in that moment, even though it was not exactly lovingly expressed, I did a nice job of taking care of myself, of standing up for myself in a situation where somebody was kind of throwing their weight around. Or maybe where somebody was really kind of losing their mind, being really upset, I didn't jump into the fray. I didn't quite allow myself to, is it rise or drop to the lower of wherever they are and play at that level, okay? You know, so we look at it and kind of think through it and determine a positive, spin on it, okay? A last quote from Ernest about this. So we desire, do we, to live in a world peopled with friends who love us, surrounded by things beautiful and pleasing. There is but one way, and this way is as certain as that the sun will shine. Daily we must control all thought that denies this, and as the mist disappears before the sun, so shall adversity melt before the shining radiance of our exalted thought. So we're going to do this for the month of March. Every Sunday we'll be looking at another arena of life, of our life experience, as spiritual beings having a physical human experience, okay? And ways that we can take away to really work on recoloring things, on clearing out wherever that vase went, cleaning up the consciousness and the thought process. And here's the cool thing. We will come away transformed from this, but we will also change the world for everybody everywhere. And so I say thank you for coming and being here today and letting us do this together. I love you. Thanks.